What is up, people? Welcome back to King Pilled. Cable in the chat says we always do this right in the middle of the workout. This actually is intentional because we know that there's nothing you would rather listen to in the middle of a workout than us two jacking off together. And there's the other Kyle. Hey, maybe we can have the Kyle off. We've got our two Kyles in the chat. You guys, you're two Kyles. You're both from the worst state in the union. You guys need to have it out. You need to decide who is going to be the Kyle. Josiah is thankful for Coop's newfound modesty. Yeah, Cooper, you've kind of changed since the last stream. Are you still hungover?
I'm not. Thanks to today's sponsor, which is Zyn. No, apparently I upset some people with that. Well, I blame Grandpa White Claw. I'm not going to take responsibilities for anything.
Yeah, we don't take responsibility for ourselves here.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
Yeah, you upset some people. Some people didn't. They don't like Cooper drunk and having a good time. They want Cooper. They want Cooper not drunk and not having a good time.
Yeah, dour and morose.
They don't care about you. They don't care about your feelings. Yeah, they just want their content.
Yeah.
Well, there was a request that we have distinct types of streams. We have the hang out, shoot the shit, get crazy and naked, apparently, streams, and then have the serious analysis streams. And I appreciate that. That would probably make it a lot easier on you deciding whether or not you want to listen to it. Unfortunately, this is part of the King Pilled experience. You never quite know what you're going to get because what you're going to get depends heavily on what mood we happen to be in on a given day. And here at Autism Central, we're very good at having a good time and we're very good at being autistic and serious. Our problem is that we just have no control over that. Again, we don't take responsibility for our actions. So what you get is what you get. And if that means you have to listen to a stream that isn't ideal, well, I'm sorry. Other people enjoyed it. Not everything's going to be for everyone. And
I like how one of our most viewed streams to date was the one where I was drunk and naked.
Maybe there's something to learn from that.
Yeah. You know what? I'm sorry to the guy who is upset, but we're trying to grow a channel here, so I might have to lean into because market feedback.
Yeah, the twink appeal is real.
That's right.
So every once in a while, we're going to get Twink Boy over here to come pound some White Claws and dance a jig.
And interrupt you midpoint.
Yeah. Make sure you do that a lot.
500 times. Yeah.
Well, welcome to King Pilled, you guys. I'm Matt. That's Cooper. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If this is not your first time listening, go away. We don't want you here. We only want to talk to the new people. No, that's actually not true. We actually maybe we don't want to talk to the new people. It depends. You have to earn our admiration. One way you can earn our admiration is through super chats. We are brazenly capitalist here. So you can send us a super chat. You can become a member of the channel and join the King Pilled, or you can go to the King Pilled subscribestar.com/kingpilled, and you can come join the King Pilled Discord, where there's lots of nudity and autism.
To the guy who was upset about our last stream, one thing you can do to get the stream you want more frequently is to actually pay us, because we're doing this for free. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you want us to do a custom stream for you, we will gladly do that. You got to pay us for it, but if you pay us, we'll happily do within reason. We'll do just about anything you want us to do. You want us to go sell out and go full commie? Yeah, we'll do that. As long as someone's paying the bills, I'll tell you whatever you want to hear.
We agree with you.
Yes.
No need to get mad.
Update on a couple
How's
of
the audio sound, everybody?
Oh, yeah, that's right. We had audio issues before we got started. Nobody's complained about it so far, so I'm going to guess that
the last stream I was pretty quiet. Am I louder now? I cranked up the gain like I do every single time.
Okay, the retard Kyle says it sounds good. Let's hear from the other retard Kyle. Yeah, let me know how I sound as well. I've got a little bit of a different setup here because I I switched out chairs. That other one just is. I do 2-3 hour streams in the space of a couple of days, and my back was screaming at me for a few days. So I swapped it out for the nice, cushy, squishy recliner here, and we're going to see how this works. But I want to make sure that I'm keeping close enough to the mic. So everyone says it sounds good.
Kyle asks, how much for a custom stream, 1 hour in length? What do you, 1,200? What's a good, what do you think?
I don't know, $5,000 maybe. It's kind of somewhere in that range.
Maybe
like pay my bills for the month.
Yeah. I'll take a yearly salary.
I'll take a yearly salary for a single episode.
Yeah, like 60 grand. I could probably make things work with that.
Cooper's clear, but you're okay, Matt. All right. Well, I pulled it a little closer to myself. I don't want to sit up if I don't have to, so hopefully I don't get too loud. I pulled it closer to me. We've got he says he's cash apping us now. Man, this is easy. Why didn't we start doing this before?
Yeah, I'll take. You want me to take my shirt off? Hey, John says he's here for the libertarian philosophy. You're in the right place.
Oh yeah, buddy. You're gonna get a deep dose of libertarian philosophy here today. In the last couple of days, I just wanted to bring to y'all's attention a couple other streams that I did. One of them was with the Semiagog. Really enjoyed that conversation. He's a great guy. We went for 3+ hours and got good feedback on that. Everyone enjoyed that. And then I was on the 2-Bit podcast, PayPal Mafia, Friend or Fed, that's on 2-Bit's channel. Another really good conversation. Had Charles Haywood there for a little bit. Had Pete Quinones and Dark Enlightenment, another cool guy we've met recently. And I can't remember if there was someone else. I've been doing so many of these lately. Oh, yeah, Tommy came in. That's who it was. Speaking of, I'll be talking to Tommy tomorrow, but I think that's a recording, so it'll come out in a few weeks. And then this Friday, I'm going to be going back on the 2-Bit podcast to talk with David Gornowski. And then next Monday, I'll be going on Academic Agent. And that one will be in the middle of the day.
Monday?
Next Monday, yeah, 3 p.m. Central Time. Next Monday.
Wasn't it Wednesday? Whatever. Whatever.
No, it's been a Monday the whole time.
Okay.
So keep an eye out for those. Please, if this is your first time here, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. And yeah. So we have got, do you think we can get David to take his shirt off too? Well, it turns out David Gornowski is now getting into professional wrestling, apparently. If you haven't heard about that, go check out one of his recent tweets where he tweeted the video announcing that, and then he beat the crap out of some guy with a beard. So, and that dude is a unit. David Gornowski he's a good guy to have around. That is a large human being. Impressive. Manly. All right, so obviously the big news thing of the day is that Trump unanimously won his case with the Supreme Court 9-0, which a lot of people were surprised by. For those of you who don't know about it, I'll give you the background here. I don't know who this is from. SCOTUSblog.com. Amy Howe. I don't know anything about her. Don't really care. Just kind of looking for the bare facts, get some quotes. So, Supreme Court rules states cannot remove Trump from ballot for insurrection. The Supreme Court on Monday ruled that states cannot disqualify former President Donald Trump from the ballot for his role in the January 6, 2021 attacks on the U.S. Capitol. In an unsigned opinion, a majority of the justices held that only Congress, and not the states, can enforce Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which was enacted in the wake of the Civil War to disqualify individuals from holding office who had previously served in the federal or state government before the war, but then supported the Confederacy against candidates for federal offices. All 9 justices agreed that Colorado cannot remove Trump from the ballot. So all 9 justices agreed with the specific point that Colorado cannot remove Trump from the ballot. 4 of the justices, Amy Coney Barrett, Sonia Sotomayor, Alina Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, the Whoopi Goldberg looking character on the thumbnail today. Cooper didn't know who she was. He's like, is this Whoopi Goldberg? Who are we talking about? I was like, no, that's a Supreme Court justice. Yeah. Anyways, the 4 women issued a joint opinion arguing that their colleagues should have just narrowly given just a narrow opinion, specifically that Colorado cannot remove Trump from the ballot, and they said they should not have decided anything more. So, what more did they decide? So, a little bit of background on the substance of the case. The dispute leading to Monday's opinion began last year in a state court in Colorado. A group of voters in that state argued that Trump was ineligible to appear on the ballot under Section 3, which provides, as relevant here, that no one, quote, shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, if that person had previously sworn, quote, as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States to support the Constitution, but then engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the federal government. So the question, one of the questions of substance here is the president considered, quote, an officer of the United States? And within that, then, is this section here applicable to the president? And then there's a further debate over first. There's the narrow question of is the president an officer of the United States? Does this apply to him? Period. And then there's another question of who has the authority to interpret and apply this. And what this Supreme Court said is that the state does not have the individual state itself does not have the authority to disqualify a president from this position. They don't basically the state itself does not have the authority to apply this particular part of the Constitution. What they said is that only the legislature can do it. So this is the thing that the four women in their joint opinion said that the five men should not have gone so far as to say that only the legislature can interpret and apply this particular part of the Constitution. A state trial court concluded that Trump, quote, had engaged in insurrection, but it rejected the voters' request to remove him from the ballot. The presidency, that court ruled, is not an office under the United States, and the president is not an officer of the United States. The voters then appealed to the Colorado Supreme Court, which agreed that Trump is ineligible to appear on the ballot under Section 3. But that court put its ruling on hold to give Trump time to go to the Supreme Court, which agreed earlier this year to weigh in. So the justices explained, they reversed the state Supreme Court's decision, and they explained that the 14th Amendment was intended to expand the federal government's power at the state's expense. So specifically, the 14th Amendment is intended to make the federal government more powerful, and not just more powerful in isolation, but more powerful vis-a-vis the individual states. And in particular, they noted Section 3 was designed to, quote, help ensure an enduring union by preventing former Confederates from returning to power in the aftermath of the Civil War. So they're saying there's a narrow historical context for this. But before disqualifying someone under Section 3, the justices observed, there must be a determination that the provision actually applies to that person. So you have to determine, is that person actually guilty of this? Are we just going to determine this arbitrarily? Or is there actually a process for determining that? And Section 5 of the 14th Amendment gives the power to make that determination to Congress by authorizing it to pass, quote, appropriate legislation to, quote, enforce the 14th Amendment. Nothing in the 14th Amendment, the court stressed, gives states the power to enforce Section 3 against candidates for federal office, nor was there any history of states doing so in the years after the amendment was ratified. Moreover, the court added, allowing states to enforce Section 3 against candidates for federal office could create a variety of problems. These are very predictable. First, although Section 5 requires Congress to tailor any legislation that it enacts to implement Section 3 so that it specifically targets the conduct that Section 3 was adopted to prevent, state efforts to enforce Section 3 would not face this same limitation. So, in other words, for Congress to implement legislation to target this specific conduct that Section 3 is addressing, they would have to tailor that very narrowly, whereas a state would be unfettered from that narrow limitation. The court concluded, quote, but the notion that the Constitution grants the states freer reign than Congress to decide how Section 3 should be enforced with respect to federal offices is simply implausible. So there's no way they're saying that the Constitution would ever be intended to give a state more power to enforce a part of the Constitution than the federal government itself. It's kind of an interesting bit of reasoning they're using here. Furthermore, allowing states to enforce Section 3 for federal candidates could result in a scenario, very predictably, in which, quote, a single candidate would be declared ineligible in some states, but not others, based on the same conduct and perhaps even the same factual record, the court warned. And that could create a patchwork that could dramatically change the behavior of voters, parties, and states across the country in different ways and at different times. Nothing in the Constitution, the court wrote, requires that we endure such chaos. So in other words, if you interpret this to say that the states can, patchwork. If you interpret this to say that the states are able to unilaterally interpret and enforce this particular Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, and that they have a wider latitude to do that than the legislation itself, the Congress itself, then you're now going to not have this standard. This Section 3 was generated for targeting a specific type of conduct. Congress would have to legislate and target that specific conduct. But now if you let the individual states do it, then they can all develop their own basis of determining what that conduct is, which then would essentially result in the fracturing of the union. So right. So this is a the Supreme Court essentially is implicitly saying that allowing this sort of thing to move forward is going to lead to the fracturing of the union. And implicit within that then is that maintaining the union together is an objective good that we must all act on behalf of. We'll get into a little bit of that more here in just a minute. I wanted to point out that Amy Coney Barrett penned her own one-page opinion, concurring in part and concurring in the judgment. So she said, I agree with some of the reasoning, and I agree with the conclusion, but I don't agree with all of the reasoning. In her view, the court's holding that states cannot enforce Section 3 against presidential candidates was sufficient to resolve this case. She's saying all we needed to do was just say, the states cannot do this. We don't need to say anything more than that. The court should not, as she suggested, have weighed in on, quote, the complicated question whether federal legislation is the exclusive vehicle through which Section 3 can be enforced. Now, this is interesting. What other vehicle would be an option? If it's not the states and it's not the legislation, what other vehicle could possibly weigh in on the enforceability of Section 3? This is not a rhetorical question. I genuinely don't know what she's thinking of. If she's just sticking strictly to principle and maybe there isn't a vehicle but one could arise, or if she's thinking of something in particular, I don't know what that would be. Herself perhaps, but then she didn't go so far as to want to make that decision here in this particular case. So it seems she's punting. She's like, well, this is not our responsibility to find this out. In fact, it shouldn't be our responsibility to determine how this would be discovered. But it also wouldn't be exclusively the legislation. So she's kind of punting it to, who knows? Federal bureaucracies? And that's the only other thing I can think of. Are we now saying in the Supreme Court that, I don't know, the Department of Labor or something is the institution that's responsible for determining this kind of thing?
The DMV.
Right. Yeah. The post office.
Yeah.
And in a relatively rare move, she appeared to criticize the tone of the joint opinion filed by Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, asserting that, quote, this is not the time to amplify disagreement with stridency. The court has settled a politically charged issue in the volatile season of a presidential election. Particularly in this circumstance, writings on the court should turn the national temperature down, not up. So in their 6-page joint opinion, the 3 liberal justices agreed with the result, but they did not agree with the reasoning. It would create a chaotic state-by-state patchwork, which is, so they're acknowledging that basically if you allow Colorado to do this, then pretty soon you're just going to get, everyone is going to be barring this president and that president, and essentially there's no such, the office of the president doesn't exist anymore for all intents and purposes. Their opinion was the majority should not have gone on to decide who can enforce Section 3 and how. Nothing in Section 3 indicates that it must be enforced through legislation enacted by Congress pursuant to Section 5, they contended. And by resolving, quote, many unsettled questions about Section 3, the 3 justices complained, quote, the majority goes beyond the necessities of this case to limit how Section 3 can bar an oath-breaking insurrectionist from becoming president. Okay, so that's that. That's the, I guess, the gist of the facts of it. Now to the response. So let's share this tab here. So this is something Vivek tweeted. Raskin slams SCOTUS decision to take up Trump immunity claim. We don't have a king here, he says. So Vivek says, hilarious how Raskin cannot see the irony in his argument. In Section 3, phrase officer of the United States in the context of Section 3 has never been understood to cover the President of the United States. Raskin is right. The president is not a monarch, but he is not a mere bureaucrat either, nor is he an officer of the United States. Although the president may not exercise legislative or judicial authority, he may wield the entirety of the power vested in him within the executive's constitutional sphere. From 1789 through the present day, an energetic executive has been vital to the constitutional structure, while the appointment of officers of the United States remains what it has always been, optional. Now, here is some interesting messaging. This was the thing that I wanted to, it's kind of sort of a bland tweet. It's like, whatever, legal. Wait a second. The appointment of officers of the United States is optional. I think.
What exactly constitutes an officer? I just assume someone who occupies an office.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's part of
the president is not an officer.
No, so because the president is the executive of the officials.
Okay.
He's the boss of the officials, so he can't be an official and also the boss of the officials. I think is essentially the gist of it. Part of this is that the term officer of the United States is not necessarily something set in stone, which is what leads to part of the substance of this debate. So I think part of, there was not really an anticipation, I would think, when the 14th Amendment was written, that this subject would actually wind up being relevant with respect to the president. I think they probably weren't anticipating that there was going to be a president who is a viable option for president who also was under suspicion of insurrection. I'd imagine that they're not anticipating that actually being a major issue, so they didn't actually parse this out completely. So this is part of the fun joy of law, is going through and trying to figure out what the definitions of all these terms are. So what I think is interesting here is Vivek's using this opportunity to signal something. And what he's signaling is not simply that the office, that the president is not, quote unquote, an officer of the United States. He's going beyond that, and he's saying having officers of the United States is itself an optional thing. That's the implication here. The president is essential. The president is an essential office. And he's saying, going beyond that, he's saying an energetic executive is what makes the government function best. An energetic executive who wields absolute authority over the executive branch, and the officers of the United States, who would be essentially federal bureaucrats, they're optional. This correlates with his well-documented plan to, when he was running, that if he got into office, he wanted to absolutely gut the federal bureaucracies. This is something also that overlaps with Project 2025. This is one of their big goals. And the other day, who was it? So yesterday, Jason from the I just forgot the name of the podcast. Jason Calacanis is his name. He's a Silicon Valley guy who's more kind of on the he's not fully Reid Hoffman, but he's toward Reid Hoffman. He's not so much part of the, he's more of a shit lib, more like leads with his shit libbery. He tweeted something about getting that the next presidential administration needs to spend less money. So we've got a shit lib Silicon Valley guy saying we need fiscal conservatism. And then Elon quote tweeted that and said we need that. And then he counter-signaled a couple other things. It was like illegal immigration, secure borders, anti-crime, and something. I don't remember exactly. But you're seeing this coalescence of people saying the government is becoming like at cross purposes to itself. It's not functioning efficiently. We've got all these incompetent bureaucrats who are slowing everything down. They're picking fights that don't need to be picked. Like this is the sentiment of these people. We've said they're not our guys. What we're just seeing is that they're saying all of this insane charged political rhetoric and these ideas that we can just take these things for granted, that the government will kind of just run itself and we don't need to have like a strong moral fiber or patriotism or pride in our country and all these sorts of things. They're like, hold on a second. Like, we need this stuff. This stuff has to exist. So there was. Do you have any thoughts to this point here before I jump into something else?
Well, we got some super chats.
Oh, sure enough, we do. Let's go look at them. $9.99 from EH. Thank you, man. He says, kind of silly. I like the I like the silly. Donald Trump was committing insurrection against himself with a peaceful transfer of power nonetheless. This is so great. Yes, this is their part of there's like an accelerationist aspect to this where by these people just not being able to take, whether it's take no for an answer, just not being able to like actually deal with something happening that they don't want. They keep pushing this further and further and further and it's making things, their decisions that they're making are getting more and more insane. And more people are like, and I want to get more into that here in just a second. Other super chat from EH also. Thank you, man. He says $4.99. We're going to adopt the DMV model, but everywhere. Lord have mercy. Please no. So there was a lot of people who were trying to decide as is usual. There was
the DMV.
Go ahead.
The DMV is the bane of my existence.
Mm-hmm.
My wife has to go there to get her license renewed. Birthday today. Happy birthday. So I've taken to calling things that are the bane of my existence the DMV of my existence. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's useful. I think that really conveys the the insufferability of it. You know what's interesting is the DMV in Texas is not that bad. I had my recent experience with it, and it was seamless.
There's one, let's see. There's one there's one that's like 5 minutes from my house. And then there's one that's like 45 minutes from my house. And I always go to the one that's 45 minutes from my house because it's always empty and there's no one there and you're in and out. And the time it takes for me to drive the 45 minutes there, do my thing, and then come back is still faster than the time I would spend at the one that's 5 minutes from my house. And really, it's unfortunate.
I remember when we were in Southern California, Jason had to go renew his license, and he actually paid one of his listeners to go stand in line for him because the line was like, it took like 5 hours or something. And so one of his listeners volunteered. So he paid him, he like bought him lunch and paid him $100 or something, I don't know, to just go stand in line for him for several hours and then call him when he got to the front of the line. In Texas, I forgot this. In Texas, the one thing that was kind of annoying was you had to schedule the appointment months in advance. I think Amy scheduled my appointment like 3 or 4 months in advance. So you couldn't just walk in somewhere. And then on the day of my appointment, I had to drive all the way up north to do something and then drive all the way back. So I tried to drop in first thing in the morning when they opened and said, hey, I have an appointment at 2:00 this afternoon. Can I just do it now? They're like, nope, got to come back at 2:00. So that was kind of annoying. But it wasn't like Southern California where literally your only option is show up and stand in line.
You couldn't so the way it works in Michigan is you can make an appointment and you can also just show up and stand in line. So for like the one that's like 5 minutes from my house, if I can get there like right when they open and you're just right at the top of the docket, not a big deal. But I don't understand why they wouldn't have just taken you there.
Yeah, me neither. And I was like, all right, whatever. So it was annoying. I had to drive like an extra 120 miles that day. And see, so this puts into stark relief what the DMV experience is like in Southern California. Because even that, I've got to drive an extra 120 miles to do this today. I was still like, this is pretty painless experience compared to what it could have been. We've got the DMV chat going now.
Yeah.
DMV is one of those things that like everybody has an opinion on. It does it'd be a great icebreaker. Like just start talking about the DMV and everybody's going to have some experience with it. So there were a lot of people that I saw. I haven't been able to really take in the conversation too much today because I've been busy working, but I did see some of it and participated in a little bit of it in the King Pill Discord where we were kind of talking back and forth. Like there's people who were surprised that the vote went 9-0 in favor of Trump. And honestly, I mean, I guess I maybe kind of surprised too. I wouldn't have been surprised to see it go 6-3 or something like that. But I think this gives a kind of a little peek into what the regime itself actually is. And it's very easy. We have a lot of these different conversations, even just in the group there as we're talking, we're saying they, like this is what they're doing. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to keep Trump off the ballot. They're trying to do this thing. They're trying to do that thing. The problem is there isn't just one they. There are many different theys. The regime itself is a coalition right now. It has been a coalition for a while. There's a number of different parties within that, and people have beaten this whole thing to death. But I think I see a tendency, this tendency in myself, and I see it in other people as well, that you kind of distill down the spirit of the regime. Like you see the trajectory, you're going to own nothing and you're going to like it. Infinite immigration of third worlders for the rest of our lives. Total anarcho tyranny, inflation, transparent corruption, all these different things. And it's easy to distill that down and say literally every single person who functions as a regime operative is committed to that goal. And that's just simply not the case. There are people within what you call the regime structure who are committed to something like that. For example, this fruitcake, Keith Olbermann. Now, this guy has no power. This guy has no say-so on anything. He's just a yapping mutt. But he's a yapping mutt that says things that are more extreme than he's willing to publicly degrade himself to say these sorts of things. And there are people who want to have people on their payroll, whether literally or not, who are willing to go out in public and say things to publicly degrade themselves like this to keep the momentum forward. So he says, the Supreme Court has betrayed democracy. Its members, including Jackson, Kagan, and Sotomayor, have proved themselves inept at reading comprehension. And collectively, the court has shown itself to be corrupt and illegitimate. It must be dissolved. The redhead libertarian says, dissolve the separations of power to save democracy? And he says, if the political whores on the court are overruling quite explicit language in the Constitution to benefit one politician, your separation of powers died long ago. And then this one was my favorite.
Close. So close, Keith.
This guy says crime more, 9-0. And he said, those aren't tears, fascist. They're urine. I'm sure you enjoy being bathed in it. And I got this here. What is it? Lee says, I'm not crying. That's piss coming out of my face. I bet you like that, huh, you little fascist piss freak? His is funnier than mine. I just said in which Keith Olbermann gleefully admits he squirts pee out of his eyes. I don't know where he was going with this. But here's the thing. You can say what you want about, I don't know, Sonia Sotomayor or Alina Kagan or even Ketanji, whatever her name is, Jumanji, Judge Jumanji. You could say like any of this. They do not want to see the Supreme Court dissolved for very obvious reasons. Now, they may share a lot of things in common with Keith. They may want to see unlimited third world immigration or whatever. They may have agreements on particular policies and particular agendas they want to see. They may want more Joe Biden. I don't think they even want more Joe Biden, but they may want, President Kamala Harris or President Gavin Newsom or what have you. But there comes a time where you recruit attack dogs like this guy to do your dirty work for you. But eventually you get to the point where it's like, okay, this person has outlived their utility. The people who are on the Supreme Court, they don't want the Supreme Court dissolved. They don't want the Supreme Court packed. Just think, if you're a Supreme Court justice, the more Supreme Court justices you have, the less influence you personally have. And this is what happens if you put together a bio-Leninist regime like this, which is a coalition of losers, retards, morons, and societal rejects. You're going to get hit a point where you can't even govern a single part of the government, much less maintain an enormously complex, interconnected lattice work of just-in-time supply chains and financial markets and stuff extending across the entire globe. Maintaining a system of control like that requires extreme competency. Our good buddy in the King Pill Discord, he said, I'm not going to use his name. I don't know if you would necessarily want me to use his name or not. And I'm trying to get him to come on the show. I think you guys would really enjoy his insight into a lot of these things. He tends to be very much of the white pilled variety, like I try to be. He said, courting these people might be good for short-term political gains, but even the most selfish, high-time preference political snake knows these people cannot be used to build permanent power. They're just acid you throw into the structures you're trying to get control over, and you throw them into your enemy structures to ruin them. That's in a sentence or in a couple sentences there. That's exactly my read on this. The reason why even the most liberal justices, we're not going to go so far as to say, oh yeah, like let's just start this process of arbitrarily removing presidential candidates from ballots and just have the whole thing just collapse overnight. They don't want that. They don't want that. They self-interestedly don't want that. Because if the entire federal government collapses under its own weight and just splits off into total economic and cultural and political chaos, then what do they get? Like, you work your entire life to become a Supreme Court justice, and then the fucking union cracks and breaks up. So what good is your station? You just participated in the destruction of your own station. And this sort of thing exists all throughout the government apparatuses. There's plenty of people who are willing to take a paycheck. They're willing to get those stock tips so they can make their stock trades early on. Yeah, right. But they get to a certain point, and they're going to bail off the freight train heading over the cliff because they begin to realize, wait a second, this thing that I'm signed on to, that I've been supporting and traveling along with, is going to come after my shit. I worked hard to get to where I am. I don't want to destroy that. I don't want that to fall apart. This is what we're seeing with the U.S. commercial banking system. They're like this Davos World Economic Forum agenda, the central bank digital currency, all this stuff. Like, this doesn't suit our interests. This isn't like a noble ideological cause that they're like, no, we need to maintain this for the good of the country. No, they're like, I like the idea of maintaining this strong, stable, nationalistic, distinct political entity as a country because that's what makes me more wealthy and more powerful. This is very easy calculus to do for people. So that's why the Supreme Court is not going to jump on board with this. Like, if you read the most radical of intentions, or the intentions of the most radical people back onto everybody who you see as a regime apparatchik, you're just not comporting with reality properly. Just because there are people within these different systems that want to see everything burn, they want to destroy it, or they're mentally deranged, beholden to some sort of demonic ideology, that doesn't mean that everybody in there is that way. And a social pressure contagion like the ones that the way that political leftism functions, by necessity, it's going to suppress the people who dissent. There's going to be people. There's going to be a class or a swath of people who dissent about the way things are going, but they keep it to themselves for a while. Eventually, you start developing kind of a prisoner's dilemma, where everyone's like, okay, we don't like the way this is going. We don't like this trend. This is now coming for my shit. It was all fine and good when everyone was over in that industry going after their shit. Now they're coming after my shit. I don't like this. But I don't want to be the one who puts my neck on the chopping block. Everybody has to move at the same time. I saw a video yesterday on Twitter of one of these big amusement
I'm about
park
to
rides.
piss my pants. I'll be right back.
Okay. One of these big amusement park rides that's one of the ones that's swinging back and forth, and the whole thing is starting to rock, like it's starting to pick up off the ground. And people are like, oh my God, ah! And then one guy runs out from the crowd and goes and jumps on the side of it, holding onto the railing and leaning back against it, trying to use his weight to keep it down. Now, him doing it by himself, he's probably gonna get himself killed. But he was like, I gotta do something. I can't just stand here and watch these people all die in front of me. And as soon as he runs up and does that, everybody starts coming up and copying him. Pretty soon you have like 20 or 30 people who are all standing there and holding the platform down. The same sort of thing is happening within the institutions right now. There's plenty of people. There's I would say at this point there's more than a sufficient number of people spread out throughout all these different institutions who are becoming keenly aware of the reality of the regime. That there are no adults at the helm, that this thing is beginning to develop a mind of its own, and is being directed by insane ideologues. And you have to do this math. Like, am I the one that makes the statement first? Am I the one that pops my head out? Because if I do it by myself and not enough people step up and support me at the same time, then I'm going to get whack-a-mole. They're just going to just mow my head right off. But if enough people all move at the same time, then you get a I don't know, like some kind of like inertial shift. You have sufficient momentum to pivot things. And I think that's what we're seeing now. These sorts of moves, they reveal that the regime is not a single united front. It's not a competent Machiavellian organization of political wizards. That should be very obvious. In our conversation with Pete Quinones yesterday, he said, you have people who hold these same thoughts in their head, where on one hand you have everything's going to hell in a handbasket, and there's a particular tribe that's running everything. Well, if the tribe is running everything and everything's going to hell in a handbasket, then why would you think that they're like completely insulated from these consequences? Why would you think that they're supremely competent demigods who will win no matter what? It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even begin to make sense. So these sorts of... It's very evident to me here that Trump is being set up to be reelected. The single possible variable is if the Democrats can pull out some other candidate at the last minute and push them out and have them be seen as viable. The problem with that is that how do you do this in such a way where you pacify your entire coalition? Because if you replace Joe Biden and you put someone else in there, well, now you've snubbed Kamala Harris. Now you have all the, we need a woman president and we need a black president and we need a black woman president. Now you have those people all up in arms. If you replace Kamala, obviously you get the exact same issue. So maybe you go with Michelle Obama. But Michelle Obama has been very clear that she has no interest in doing that. And her being forced to do it is not going to be particularly compelling. And it's going to be difficult to shoehorn something like that in and maintain any sense of competency or legitimacy. And I'm talking about this for the sake of the serious powers that be. It'd be very obvious to bankers, foreign financial interests, foreign heads of state, that Kamala is not being brought here because of her brilliance as a diplomat. It's very obvious that
what if they,
you have Joe Biden who is incompetent and there's people running him, and now you're going to put in or Michelle Obama, and there's people who are running her, and you're dealing with the exact same people that are already making a mockery of themselves. That's not just a clean solution.
What if they ran Hillary again?
That's what I think Malice mentioned that when he was talking to Vivek. And if I remember right, Vivek was like, yeah, maybe. But so we're going to take the most the most unpopular candidate in history and run her again. And it's just, again, you've got to come up with a candidate who's going to be both electorally viable and viable in terms of credibility with respect to foreign interests in the financial system that are beginning to express a lot of unhappiness and distrust with the existing regime. They've really, this is part of why it's so compelling to me what Curtis Yarvin was saying in 2020, that the best thing that could happen is 4 years of Biden, because that 4 years of Biden has absolutely nuked the credibility and political momentum within the Democrat Party as a valid institution. At this point now, they have to try to do all these like hackneyed, over the top, transparently corrupt sorts of moves to try to advance their agenda because they have no political legitimacy. The party is becoming a defunct political vehicle. And so we're seeing, when you see a guy like Jamie Dimon, and the influences within the commercial banking system beginning to really strongly signal their desire for Trump, the concern with China, and that Trump was the one who actually had the Chinese on their heels, was willing to deal with them productively and govern competently. It's like Trump was a sharp departure from what preceded him, but now they've seen what the alternative is. And when they see the alternative, they're like, maybe Trump wasn't so bad. The problem is, for them, there's no other viable option. It's very clear the only way you get Nikki Haley in is through transparently corrupt political maneuvering, which degrades the legitimacy of the office and doesn't solve the economic and political turmoil that resonates out throughout the rest of the world. The only way you can get her in is illegitimate means, essentially. So, all right, we got to make a deal with Trump. Trump kept the gravy train running in other ways before. We can make a deal with him. We can sort things out. The problem with that, from their perspective, is Trump is now beholden to growing powerful interests within, as we've documented, within the, maybe kind of like the new right donor class and Silicon Valley, Heritage, Hillsdale. Those people are now starting to really lean on Trump. So if you're going to make a deal with Trump, you have to make a deal with those people as well. And the closer we get to the election, the less leverage they have and the more leverage the Trump side has.
Matt,
what?
Got a guy here in the chat, Mr. Dope Chan Noodles. That's a good name. He says, "Why are you deleting comments about the tribe?"
I haven't deleted any
We are
comments.
not doing that. Yeah.
I haven't even been paying attention to the comments.
This is YouTube deleting comments about the tribe?
I wouldn't be surprised. Do you mean comments on the videos themselves or comments in the chat? 2 comments deleted. If you're not sufficiently encoding what you're saying, then I guarantee you there are algorithms that are going to pick up on it. You got to be you got to be cleverer than the algorithms.
In chat, yeah, I haven't changed the chat filter to all new.
Oh yeah, that would be the other thing.
I haven't deleted anything.
Yeah, if the chat says all new, there's all new and then there's top. And top chat is definitely going to filter out questionable messages. But I haven't seen anything that
testing, Jew. Jew. Yeah,
that came through. So anyway, so that was my read of the situation. I think again, I'm falling very much on the on this particular narrow part of this issue. I'm falling very much on the Charles Haywood side that these are not competent. This is not a competent, unified, political organization. It's a coalition that's fracturing. And this was funny. Cooper sent this to me. The decision to allow voters to choose likely means the end of democracy. And see, like, you don't have to be a non-normie, you don't have to be a non-normie. You got double negative in here to observe this phenomenon. Even the normies can observe this phenomenon. Like, this is what the official press is saying. The allowing voters to choose is going to be the end of democracy. Even the average person's like, what? What are you talking about? One other thought that just popped into my head. We'll talk about this. And I know you got a heart out, Cooper, and you had some stuff you wanted to talk about. So we'll get into that. We were talking in the King Pilled voice chat the other day about dead internet theory. And so dead internet theory essentially is the idea that I don't know the exact definition of it, but the gist of it is the internet becomes more and more just a bunch of bots talking to each other until eventually, like, you're not actually talking to other people, you're just talking to bots.
Or there's like that 4chan postulation about the the apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
where it's just like a nuclear wasteland and there's just like a couple servers left and it's just bots talking to each
Yeah,
other.
right.
All the humans are dead.
I think that there's an interesting phenomenon that I've been starting to pick up on, where the we're still in the infancy of social media and understanding the implications of this and everything, and it's difficult to ascertain exactly how much of the internet communication that happens is between bots themselves, and then there's the NPC phenomenon of that's a riff off of that, where you have the individual people themselves who are functionally NPCs.
Got some guy spurting out in the chat. Okay, get out of here, dude. Indicator. You sound kind of gay. Go away.
What's he talking about?
I don't know. And he's been arguing with Kyle. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, he looks like he's
He works
arguing
for
with
the post
himself.
office. Yeah, yeah. He works post office. So he's a Fed. He's a Fed.
Fed, away with you, Fed.
I'm just gonna ban him real quick. Fed, get out of here.
Oh, we do need to get some more. Need to get some more wrenches in here. Cooper, can you apply wrenches to? Do you have that power, that ability?
I'll see. I'll see if I do.
See if you can, and then just give it out prudently.
Put him in a timeout.
So this NPC phenomenon, where you have the people who are genuinely NPC. This is like, if you've encountered an NPC person, you know what it's like. They do proliferate on the internet. They're easy to pick up when you talk about certain subjects, and you realize, okay, this person I'm talking to is an NPC. This isn't an actual person. And this is as distinct from an actual bot itself. But I think the combination of the...
I do not have that power.
Okay, I'll do it later. Apparently, the combination of
balls and wieners is volunteering.
Oh, great. I don't know how I feel about this. Do we want to give balls and wieners mod power? I kind of think not. You need to prove yourself a little bit, balls and wieners.
I totally do.
So the what was I saying? So you have actual NPCs, then you have like normies, then you have non-normies. And you've got this extra variable thrown in, which is bots. And I suspect that what has happened is the actual proliferation of bots on the internet and the degree to which you see them or hear from them or interact with them actually distorts your perception of how many people are actually NPCs. And part of my substantiation for this, I think, is that when you meet an NPC person in real life, it stands out. You're like, this person is genuinely weird. How is this person like not have any unique thoughts? They literally just regurgitate absolutely everything. They have no unique take on anything. It's very weird. The reason for that is that the majority of people that you meet are just normies. They're not NPCs, they're normies. And I think this is an important distinction. Because I think it's really easy for people to get super black-pilled when they start thinking 80% of people are NPCs. No, it isn't like 80% of people who are NPCs. It's probably like, I don't know, 20 or 30% of people are NPCs. 20% aren't. And there's a delta in there of like 50 or 60% of people that are just normies. And the thing about a normie is that just them being a normie doesn't make them an NPC. Them being a normie means they just kind of follow the trends, but they've got like sort of a sense of what's decent and normal and right and whatever. And it's malleable, but they're not a straight empty vessel that's just populated by something else. But if you perceive 80% of the population to be just simple empty vessels that are just mindlessly populated by whatever the TV says, then yeah, you're definitely going to get black-pilled. But go out and actually meet some people. Talk to some people in real life. If you live in like a deep urban, like deep blue area, and you want to be like, oh no, see this person, the other people, everyone around me is all just an NPC. Okay, well yeah. If you're in NPC Central, of course everyone around you is an NPC. Just get yourself out of NPC Central and you realize that there's a lot of people out there who are just normies. They're not NPCs. Okay. So 65 watching, only 30 likes. Why this? Yeah, now it says 63 and 32. Come on, folks. Got to do your part. We're doing our part. So Cooper had a couple of things he sent me for us to get into here. Which one did you want to lead with?
The Dung Festival.
Okay. So, well, here, before I show it on the screen, give the background to it. Yarvin's little thing with it.
Oh, well, okay. So I remember listening to a podcast forever ago with a mold bug, and he was talking about like in-group preference and in-group speak. For example, you won't ever hear a Democrat refer to the Democratic Party as the Democrat Party. They'll refer to it as the Democratic Party. That's like calling it the Democrat Party is something that like explicitly non-Democrats do. So if you say the Democrat Party, you're outing yourself. And he gave an example where he's like, okay, imagine you and your buds, your tribe or whatever, across the river, there's this other tribe, and they call themselves, the people of the soil or the people of the center of the earth. That's how they see themselves. But you call them the shit-eating mud people. If you say that to them, it's not going to go over very well. So when you're with the shit-eating mud people, you got to refer to them as you got to hide your power level. Refer to them as the people at the center of the earth or whatever. But anyway, a couple of weeks ago, or maybe last week we did a stream and we were talking about, it was when we were the Tucker stream where he was in Russia, and we had a brief aside where we were laughing about India and calling them the shit-eating mud people. And in case anybody was upset about that, I have some sauce here to back up my statements. Now it's kind of choppy for me on my end. I hope that was smooth for everybody. But
okay, yeah,
it's a bunch of Indians who have some like religious holiday where they roll around in like cow shit or something like that, and throw it at each other. Like they're literally the shit-eating mud people. Yeah, culture.
Magoo says, and I was going to make chili for dinner. Don't you guys want some naan now? A little naan, little curry. That's where
the curry sauce is there to cover up the shit flavor.
You should get sometime get 2-Bit Podcast going on this his opinion on Indian food and Indian culture, because he has opinions.
I love naan, dude. Naan is so good.
Yeah. Have you seen the video of the guy, the Indian street vendor, who's like using his toenails to cut food? He's like squatting. He's got these long ass toenails and he's using them to like slice the food.
No way.
He like rubs it on his armpits or something.
Pisses on it. Shit's all over it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it should be hard to say that the people who live like this, like there's a reason that there's a caste system in India, because there are people in India who literally roll around in cow shit.
Yeah.
This is a sacred ritual, a holy cow dung festival, where they go and they roll around in cow shit. So then, do you want me to do the other one? Do you have more thoughts on that?
No, I was just no. You can move on to the other one since we're just kind of displaying the wonders of culture.
Yes. So this one here, a travel vlog couple trying to visit every country in the world decided to go to India as their latest destination. 11 hours ago, they announced they were at the hospital because he had been beaten up and she'd been I don't know if we could say this word out loud. She had been set upon by
Rangaped?
7 men. Yeah, rangaped. Yeah, this is here's your primal society. This is and then you'd sent me another one that had, or did I send it to you? Oh yeah, the other link that I sent you. I texted it to you.
Well,
and it
I was
had
doing
a whole
some
bunch of
further
them.
reading about that travel couple, and apparently they've been through like every Middle Eastern country. They had no problems, but the second they get to India, rangaped.
Uh-huh. Here's one here. So 4 men arrested for gaping a Bengal monitor lizard in western India. Pregnant goat dies after being rangaped by 8 men in India. Dog dies after being rangaped by 4 men in India. 4 men arrested for gaping a cow calf after video went viral on social media. What the fuck is going on in India, man?
Yeah, no kidding, dude. Like, I really don't want to laugh about like that chick, for real. Like, Lord have mercy. That's horrible. But all of this is so absurd.
Now, when we were talking about this earlier,
I guarantee India was a million times better under British occupation.
And there are a lot of Indians who believe that. I just saw a video the other day of a guy, he was like a British guy or something. He was walking through India through the streets, and he was holding just like videoing himself. And he walked past a old Indian guy, and the guy was like, who are you? Who are you? Where are you from? And he said, England. And the guy was like, oh, come back, come rule us again, or said something like that. Yeah, there are, not all cultures are created equal.
Yeah, and I was thinking about, I think it was Tommy. It was Tommy who said it in the Friend or Fed stream that you guys did the other day, where he was talking about, I think it's his wife or someone who's from some family or someone who's from South Africa. And just talking about how over the course of like 20 or 30 years, it went from being a first world country to just a violent shithole. And, there are some things worse than apartheid.
Like
getting gang raped or rangaped, excuse me.
Yes. So to tie
that's worse than apartheid.
Yes. This was a thought that I had earlier as we were talking, as I was imagining, we put these up here, and you're inevitably going to get the Spurgs in the chat who, or in the replies or whatever, who say, this is what Vivek wants to bring to America. And here's where I just have to say, like, you've lost the fucking plot, man.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at this dude who was born in Cincinnati, grew up in the Midwest, I understand the point. I understand the 50,000 foot view, super low resolution point that you have.
Also,
you have Christianity. Yeah, also, he's a Brahmin, right?
He's the upper caste. He doesn't touch these. He doesn't touch the dung people.
Right. I mean, even so, if you say, okay, Christians, you have a Christian society that can uphold law and order and decency and virtue and honor and beauty and yada, yada, yada. And any deviation from that will inevitably result in shit-eating mud people. Okay, I understand. At a super high resolution view, yes. Or sorry, a low resolution view from 50,000 feet high, like, yes, that's true. It's inane to say, therefore, there's an Indian guy who's preaching NRX doctrine, and if he was to be the vice president, then that means we're going to have shit-eating mud people festivals in the streets within a presidential administration. This is mind-blowingly stupid. If you're going to be racist, at least be like intelligently racist. Don't be a blithering moron racist.
Jason says we should put a pile of cow shit next to him at his next speech and see what he does. Watch him start rolling around in it. Like he can't help himself. Like a pig.
Right. Right. There'll be numerous articles written about Vivek not being a real Indian. Yeah. Like, this is part of the reason why he can say the things that he can say is because he's not a white dude. Because he's a monotheistic Hindu brown guy. He could say these things, and he doesn't have to deal with the same drama that would happen if somebody else said it. Use the regime's own foibles against itself. All right. Well, I know you've got oh, wait a second. Hold on. There was almost forgot about this. I can't believe it. A $40 super chat from Paladin XYZ. Thank you, my friend. Now we're talking. He is showing the rest of you guys up. Look at him go. He says Rizmaster has the new look down. Locked and loaded in the bunker. Green lights throwing off the flare sensors. Hoodie lined with Reynolds foil. Not the bargain stuff. The whole thing says, something is happening, bro.
Something's happening, bro.
Something's happening. Get it, big boy. Thank you, Paladin.
I'm actually going to be starting a D&D campaign this evening, and I was going to play as a paladin.
Aha! Did they say that the universe is sending you a signal? Are you listening to the universe?
Yeah, it's like the law of attraction or something happening here.
Yeah, man. Spooky action at a distance or something. All right, well, I know you got to go. Head out. We had a nice little show here.
Yeah.
Did you have any other thoughts on the subject? I can't remember what we talked about this morning.
I did have a diatribe about the autism of Zoomers. Well,
oh yeah,
or just
yeah, you got to do that.
In general, well, okay, well, we'll leave you with a hook here. Maybe we'll talk about this next time. Well, there's actually kind of two things, but one of those things is, well, okay, I get fed up. I get fed up with all the screeching online. Okay, I get fed up. On the left or the right, I'm neither left nor right, guys.
Right, like all decent people.
Yeah, I'm a libertarian. It's become apparent to me, okay, because I was wondering, okay, because you have like, the lefties who they screech about, their microaggressions or whatever, or brown people, or they've got their pet issues, and then on the right, you've got the same thing. It's the same phenomenon. They just have their different pet issues. Like, okay, one week they're spurging out about conservative pinup calendar, and then the next week they're freaking out about Jordan Peterson's coat, and then they're freaking out about a yellow girl and her birthday gangbang or whatever. Everyone's just pearl clutching. And I was trying to think about like what is at the root of that. And I think this is my theory, is that it's just autism. Because if like, okay, you're terminally online and you're autistic, you have two options. You either become a transvestite or you become a fascist. But like the temperament and the psychology is the same in both camps. And that's why they're both equally insufferable and they do the exact same thing. What do you think?
Yes. What do you think, people? I think this is what he was telling me earlier, and I was like, you got to say this. This is perfect. You're going to be autistic online. You can either be a transmission or a fascist. Oh yeah, the girls dancing to the rap music discourse that became a thing for some reason. Yeah, all this is just like, this stuff's insufferable. Shout out 2K, $2. TK,
and I got
$2.
Some pushback.
He says the cleaning lady at his gym is all in for Vivek. Hell yeah, cleaning lady.
I remember getting, when we were talking about the calendar, I remember getting pushback because I was talking about like, my kind of people are like blue collar guys who have a pinup calendar in their shop and they're not all freaking out. Maybe they smoke a little and people are like, oh, you just like hanging out with the degenerate whites. And it's like, no, I just don't like hanging out with fucking school marms. Okay.
White liberals.
That's what it is. Yeah. Okay. You can be on the dissident right and still be a white liberal.
Mm-hmm.
If you're pearl clutching, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pearl clutching about pearl clutching. I'm tired of it.
Yes.
You guys are gay.
Thank you to Buck Johnson for reminding me. I was about to make a big point with the NPC bot phenomenon. To sum up my thoughts on that, it was that I think that we have gotten to the point where we underestimate the intelligence of and decency of the average person. Everyone's gotten so completely black-pilled and doomed out on watching the trajectory of all these things, but all of these things that are upsetting us are increasingly upsetting more and more people. By definition, if they're normies, they're not going to be upset about it in the same way or for the same reasons. But if you believe that 80% of the people around you are all devotees, consciously or otherwise, to a slavish death cult that is dragging us into the abyss, yeah, that's going to be pretty black pilling. But the thing is, the majority of people are not that way. The majority of people are just normies. They're simply normies. And there's a benefit to this. It's nice to have normies around. Have you ever gone and just hung out with normies? It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of refreshing sometimes. Like, not everything has to be some deep conversation or spaz out, or, you just talk about the weather or sports or business or whatever. This is what normies are. Normies just want to grill, man. And the more things get more and more deranged, like there's a legitimate phenomenon here where the normies are just going to be fed up. Don't demonize the normies. The normies are good people. They're not the autists. Again, the autists, you're either going to be a transmission or a fascist, which is, I have my opinion on which of those I prefer, but there's normies too. You don't have to freak out about just recognize that the normies are just decent people who just want to grill, and you don't need to spaz about them. There are evil people out there. Don't turn every single person into an evil person. There's no need to inflate the ranks of your enemies. Those who are actually our enemies are very clear.
Yeah.
And their power is waning.
Matt's going to bat for the trannies.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel bad for a lot of them. Like, I think they're obviously not happy people. They don't have any sort of peace or fulfillment. They don't have they hate themselves, and it's not like they invented this thing for themselves. This is something that's been inflicted on them by a completely degenerate, psychotic culture. That culture has been cultivated. It doesn't have to stay cultivated. It can be uncultivated. But, I mean, obviously, as there is within every demographic of people, there are the people who are legitimately evil and should be recognized and treated as such. But a lot of these are just, they have their particular brand of suffering that they have to deal with, and this is how it manifests. Taylor Brown says, so you're saying I can enjoy sports ball and still be a dissident right-winger. If you can't, then drop the dissident right-winger part and just enjoy the sports ball part, because that's much better. How do you do, fellow football fans? All right. Well, I will. The path to victory is paved in normies. There you go. There's the one-liner for today. The path to victory is paved in normies. We can, if you've actually read Patchwork and you've gotten into it's either the third or fourth chapter where he talks about what to do with the unproductive people. And it's kind of there could be a funny double meaning in there. The path to victory is paved in normies. All right. Thanks for showing up, guys. Do us a favor. Like, subscribe, share the video if you'd like. Follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled. Follow him at Cooper Brooks. You can also listen to this. We post the audio on all the podcatchers within a couple days after it goes up. Shout out Xavier. And do us a favor and comment. Helps us with the algorithm. Even if you just post a middle finger or something, just drop us a comment. Helps us out. And remember, again, 2-Bit Podcast this Friday, and then Academic Agent next Monday. And I've got a couple of other very interesting interviews that I'm in the process of lining up that I think you guys are going to enjoy. So
next Monday isn't this coming up Monday or the following one?
this coming up Monday. 6 days.
Word.
All right.